On your way home, you petted someone else's dog. 30 seconds outside a coffee shop. Nothing worth remembering. But your dog meets you at the door, pushes his nose into your jeans, and stays at your knee a couple of seconds longer than usual. Then he walks off and lies down. Did he smell the other dog? Almost certainly. Nobody argues about that part. The uncomfortable question starts after that. Did he understand it was another dog? A living, warm one you touched with your hands? And did he file her as a rival? For 12 years, researchers have come at this from different angles, and every new experiment delivers a fresh problem instead of an answer. Is the dog reacting to a threat to the relationship? To another dog, period? To attention she just lost? Or is this people calling something jealousy because that's what they want to see? Something really did stay on your sleeve. Forensic scientists have to know exactly how long a scent survives on an object because criminal cases depend on it. It turns out, volatile compounds move from one fabric to another after 10 seconds of contact, and instruments can still pick them up weeks later. A human scent trail lasts 8 to 11 hours on grass, 1 to 3 hours on asphalt, and months on a leather jacket in warm conditions. You have about 6 million scent receptors in your nose. A dog has up to 300 million, and the part of her brain that sorts smells is proportionally 40 times bigger than yours. 30 seconds outside that coffee shop was enough to leave a detectable trace of another animal on you. Your dog almost certainly noticed that you smell different today. And that is where the nose stops. Noticing a strange trace doesn't tell you who it belonged to, how long the contact lasted, or what any of it means for your relationship. The nose delivers data. Something else has to interpret it. To find out whether dogs interpret anything at all, researchers had to bring the rival right into the room. In 2014, psychologist Christine Harris at the University of California, San Diego, set out to test an idea that serious researchers had mostly avoided saying out loud, that dogs get jealous. The reluctance wasn't snobbery. Jealousy requires a fairly complicated setup inside a head. You have to understand that you have a relationship, that a third party has entered it, and that this third party is taking something that belongs to you. Plenty of researchers treated jealousy as a cultural invention, something humans came up with alongside marriage and romance novels. The idea came to Harris at her parents' house, where 3 border collies lived. She was petting 2 of them, and what struck her was that the third one, the one being ignored, wasn't the one complaining. The 2 she was actually petting were. Each kept shoving the other away with her head. She borrowed her method from child psychologists, a test used to measure jealousy in 6-month-old babies. 36 dogs. Each owner spent 1 minute completely ignoring their own dog and giving all their attention to one of 3 objects. The first was a realistic toy dog that barked, whined, and wagged its tail. The second was a plastic jack-o'-lantern candy pail, the kind kids carry trick-or-treating. The third was a children's book with music, which the owner read out loud. While the owner fussed over the pail or read the book, the dogs were mostly bored. The moment he started cooing over the toy dog, they pushed at him, shoved their heads between him and the toy, physically wedged themselves into the gap, and some of them snapped. 86% walked around to the back of the toy and sniffed it exactly where a dog sniffs a real dog. Harris kept her conclusion careful, which made it land harder. The animals behaved as if they were trying to break the connection between their owner and a rival. They made no real attempt to grab the toy or destroy it. All that effort went into one thing, getting into the space between 2 bodies. There's an easy objection here, and the researchers raised it themselves. The dog could see the rival the whole time. Maybe she was reacting to a moving, barking object at her owner's feet, rather than to any threat to the relationship. To separate those 2 possibilities, somebody had to take the rival out of sight. Amalia Bastos did exactly that in 2021 at the University of Auckland, the one in New Zealand. 18 dogs, average age 4.5 years. Each dog is held on a leash rigged with a force sensor. The device measures how hard the animal pulls, and that's the only thing recorded. The owner sits across from her. Next to him is either a realistic fake dog or a fleece cylinder. Same size, same softness, with nothing about it that suggests a living creature. The dog gets a few seconds to look at the scene. Then a chest-high barrier comes down between her and her owner, and after that, she can't see anything at all. With the fleece cylinder behind the barrier, the dogs barely reacted. When the fake dog was back there, they threw their weight into the leash as hard as they did when they could watch the whole thing. It's worth being careful with the conclusion here. The experiment can't show you what the dog was picturing. What it shows is smaller and still remarkable. The reaction kept depending on who the animal had seen next to her owner a few seconds earlier. Information about the rival outlived the rival's disappearance. Bastos identified 3 markers, each one matching human jealousy. The reaction only appeared for a social rival. It followed from the interaction rather than from someone simply being nearby, and it held up once the interaction went out of sight. Behavior is unreliable evidence, though. The dog could have been overstimulated by a familiar trigger, pulling at the leash out of excitement rather than hurt feelings. To separate the emotion from the commotion, somebody had to look inside the skull. By then, a way to do that existed. At Emory University, neuroscientist Gregory Burns spent years pulling off something people considered impossible. He trained dogs to walk into an MRI scanner voluntarily and lie there with no sedation and no restraints. Just lie still while a magnet hammers away next to their ears. That opened up a live view of a working dog brain. In 2018, his team ran 13 of these dogs through an experiment with 3 conditions. In the first, the owner fed the dog herself. In the second, he dropped the food into a bucket. In the third, he fed a realistic fake dog sitting nearby. When the bucket got the food, nothing much happened in the brain. When the fake dog got it, the amygdala lit up in some of the animals, on both sides at once, and it lit up brighter the higher that dog had scored on a standard aggression questionnaire, which owners had filled out in advance, knowing nothing about the scan results. It looked promising. A social scene produced a measurable brain response, and the response was stronger in dogs that also have a harder time with other dogs in real life. The problem is that the amygdala isn't a dedicated jealousy sensor. It fires for threat, for fear, for anger, for excitement, for any event that matters to the animal. The scanner showed honestly that the scene carried emotional weight for these dogs. Naming the emotion was beyond it. From here, the whole structure starts to wobble. Burns published in a journal that prints responses from other researchers alongside the paper. Around 20 came in, and a good number of them took the headline apart piece by piece. Jennifer Vonk at Oakland University, a different Oakland, this one in Michigan, pointed out that the experiment lacked controls. Too many causes explain the same picture. Thomas Denson wrote that amygdala activity on its own can't establish jealousy or even a negative emotion at all. James Serpell put it more bluntly. What if this is plain dislike of another dog? Ordinary intolerance of a stranger standing near your person, the thing that gets a dog labeled bad with other dogs, and the thing nobody publishes papers about. The most damaging comment came from Webb and Franz de Waal, and it goes after the design itself. Jealousy and envy are built differently. Envy runs between 2 parties. Someone else has what you want. Jealousy needs 3. There's a bond, and there's an outsider pushing into it. The experiment handed out food, so it probably measured envy, resentment over a lost snack, rather than anxiety about a relationship. The question the whole thing was built to answer went untouched. Alexandra Horowitz at Barnard College had already undercut this entire field back in 2009 when she took apart the famous guilty look. 14 dogs, filmed in their own homes. The owner forbids a treat and leaves the room. While he's gone, the dog either eats it or doesn't. The owner comes back, and here's the trick. The researcher sometimes told him the wrong thing about what had happened. The guilty look turned out to track the owner's tone rather than the crime. The most heartbreakingly guilty faces came from obedient dogs being scolded for nothing. That doesn't mean people are always wrong about what dogs feel. It means something narrower and more uncomfortable. The same expression can come from a completely different cause than the one you assign to it. Jealousy-shaped behavior exists and can be measured. What drives it from the inside is something these experiments still can't separate. Resource guarding, frustration, intolerance of a stranger, tension the dog picked up off you, any of those fits the same footage, which raises a question that doesn't clear up the uncertainty but does explain where it came from. Why would an animal have machinery for reacting to a stranger standing next to someone it's bonded with? The California National Primate Research Center works with a South American monkey called the titi. These primates pair for life. The male and female sit pressed together with their tails twined, and they're almost never apart. In 2017, Karen Bales sat 8 males down and had them watch their partner spend time next to a strange male. The control was the same scene, with nothing personal at stake, a stranger male with a stranger female. While a male watched his own partner with the outsider, his testosterone climbed, and so did his cortisol, the stress hormone. The longer he watched, the higher that cortisol went. Two brain regions switched on: the cingulate cortex, the same one that handles social rejection in humans, and the lateral septum, which maintains the pair bond. 8 males of a single species is far too little to declare a law of nature, but the result supports the hunch behind the whole study. Reactions that look like jealousy may have shown up long before humans, protecting the bond that survival depends on. And for a pet dog, the bond with you decides nearly everything. You control when she eats, where she goes, when the door opens, and who comes through it. For an animal in that position, your attention is worth a disproportionate amount, and it would be strange if she weren't keeping track of where it goes. Science can't prove she experiences losing that attention as a betrayal. What it does have is a different result, one that looks smaller and holds up far better. It came from Gregory Burns again, 3 years before the amygdala study, and almost by accident. In 2015, 12 dogs lay in the scanner while cotton swabs carrying 5 different scents were held under their noses one at a time. The dog's own scent, a familiar dog from the same house, an unfamiliar dog, a familiar human, and an unfamiliar human. The scent processing area responded to all 5 about equally. The nose did its job. But the caudate nucleus, a region tied to expecting something good, was selective. It responded most to the familiar human, more than to the other dog from the same apartment, more than to the dog's own scent. That person wasn't in the room. The samples had been collected separately and ahead of time, and the owners sitting beside the scanner were not the people whose scent was being presented. All that was left was a smell on a piece of gauze, and it was enough for the brain to single that person out from everyone else. This doesn't prove your dog thinks about you nonstop while you're at work. A scanner can't show love, hurt feelings, or longing. It shows something smaller and sturdier. Your trace carries a specific positive value for her, even when you aren't there. So the question we started with gets answered in 3 steps. Does your dog know another animal's scent is on you? Almost certainly yes. Does she take it personally the way a person would? Here the honest answer is that nobody knows yet. Jealousy-shaped behavior is real, it's visible, and it can be measured. It just still has too many possible causes to pick one. The third part is solid. Out of the thousands of scents her world is made of, yours holds a place of its own. You open the door. She comes over and pushes her nose into your sleeve. Maybe the first thing she finds there is whoever you met on the way home. And then she finds you anyway.